This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
You know, it's unfortunate, but you do kind of have to shop your customer to figure out if it's going to be a problem or not. Like, can you possibly make them happy, or will they always not be happy with the situation?
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for Living. This week we've got John Whalen from Whalen Speed R&D. Whalen Speed is in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So they're up in the great wintry north, coincidentally very close to my hometown, so I'm familiar with the area. And John has also runs a shop very similar to mine. He does a lot of Evo stuff, DSM. He does a lot of fab work, which is more than I can say. And he also does manufacture some parts. So he's kind of got a little bit of everything going on, and I think a lot of that is very useful to having a diverse source of revenue. And so John has been dragging his car, and so I met him at the Busher Shootout, and so we've been talking, and being Evo people, we communicate somewhat often. So John, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So other than my trailer and customer's car being stolen, I guess a few days ago.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Things could be better, but the shop is doing well, and we're doing a podcast, so that's always fun.
Good to hear.
Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and get started? Why don't you tell us kind of about yourself? Like, how did you grow up, get involved in cars? Kind of bring us up to the point where you got started with Whalen Speed.
Well, I wouldn't really say that I was that into cars when I was young. I definitely focused on sports. I played sports all year round. Of course, the video games and everything else like that, and you dreamed about them, but, no one in my family really was that involved in it. And I remember actually looking at, I saw a 3000 GT VR4 on the side of the road, and I stopped and looked at it.
Was it broken?
But it was not actually broken, but
now they all are.
Yeah, exactly. But it was way out of my price range at the time.
Okay.
So my first car was an '89 Crown Vic. Nothing special at all.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad bought that for me, and then it was probably less than a year. I was like really looking to get something else. I mean, I had a job, and I tried to work as much as I could through high school. I seen the 3000 GT, and it was like $7,000-8,000, and that was just out of the question. And my now brother-in-law was like, "Man, you should look into those Talons." So I started looking, on Craigslist for Talon. I didn't really like the way the 1G looked, so I was looking at 2Gs, and obviously they're a little bit more expensive. And I ended up purchasing a black 95 non-turbo Talon. And I mean, I was so noob to this whole situation. Like, I asked him if it had a turbo on it, and obviously there was no turbo on the thing. But yeah, so I drove that, and I was doing all the stupid mods to it, and I was doing lights and like the underglow. It's pretty funny. Like, the first month I had, I didn't even make my first car payment on it yet. Someone rear-ended me going to school. So that's when I met up with another pretty well-known DSM guy, Paul Volk, and I bought an Eclipse rear bumper for it and Altezza tail lights and did all the stupid stuff there. And then it wasn't until I actually graduated high school and I had another job while I was going to college. I went to University of Michigan Dearborn. I sold the Talon. I bought a 95 bone stock Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX.
Okay.
And
so you finally got your turbo.
I finally got the turbo car. It was super clean, completely stock. It was actually kind of rare. It had slate blue interior, vented rear rotors. The first thing I did to it is I put the wheels off my Talon on it, and I put a Greddy Type S blow-off valve. And then I started to do a ton of reading on DSM tuners. That's really what got me, I guess, super involved and interested in making more power. Because, I mean, some of the guys that are still in the game now were kind of, making a lot of power back then, like Mike Wohler and John Wigger, and there's a couple other names on there that I don't even know their actual name, just forum name. But I'd say seeing the 2Gs and stuff like that making a lot of power was really cool. And then I started dabbling with, I did a 16G and a front mount, and of course eBay, because I didn't know what quality was back then. I did a map translator. I did a lot of stupid stuff and learned a lot of stupid stuff, but I was making boost controllers. I worked at a hardware store, so I made boost controllers. I remember like rigging up like a pressure system so I can see how much pressure it took to move the ball off the seat. It was pretty cool. But yeah, we did that. And the 95 GSX actually has like a intercooler silencer. Then I removed that and I put a piece of PVC in it and I melted the PVC. So I learned that isn't a good intercooler pipe. But yeah, a lot of it was just, playing around. There's not many of them out here. I graduated from Bangor, so a lot of this happened on like a rather rural area. There isn't many turbo cars out here. So I was just kind of going through, learning everything. And then it started to get a little more serious as I, started making more money. I bought like an HX35 and DSM Link, and I read the manual to DSM Link like 15 times on the way up to Mackinac on a family trip. And it was pretty cool. The car was running like 12 nines on a MAF translator, a little bit of race gas, and a 16G. And then I put the DSM Link in it on a Wednesday, and I went to the track on Friday, and I instantly got faster. I didn't touch anything. It went 12.6. Just having launch control was like huge back then, like we were always just revving it up and launching off that. And then about this time, people in the area kind of knew that, I had a semi-fast DSM. I guess it was pretty fast in the day, but
what kind of time frame was this?
It was 2008, 2009. I got the car in August of 2007.
Okay.
And then I, just looking back at Facebook pictures, October of 2008, I had a front mount on it. So
just in time for the economy to dump, right?
Yeah. I guess I was young enough that I didn't really notice it as bad, but the jobs I worked didn't really. I worked at a golf course and Home Depot in the tool rental section.
Okay.
At this time frame, and I went to school, which was like pretty crazy. And then in 2000, let's see here, this had to have been, all right, so early 2010. That's when I went into business with the first group of guys. It was actually 3 guys. And we rented a shop from actually now he's actually a pretty good friend. Dr. Dan is what his business was named. I still call him that. But we rented a building from him. It was 4 bays, had 2 operational lifts. The third one just leaked so bad we never used it. But and we started, just modifying these a little bit. We would bring cars in mostly from the Kalamazoo area.
Okay.
So it was me, another guy. One of the guys got out of the situation pretty quick. He didn't really want to get too involved.
Okay.
And then the third guy, he was definitely more of like the business side of it. He would take care of the phone calls, and we started building a website and learning about all that stuff. So that was pretty crazy time because I had 2 jobs and I was going to school at the time. Now I transferred to Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and I was going through their engineering program. So I'd work, just insane hours. I'd show up at the shop at like 10 o'clock and work till like 1, then go home. But so I was in that business for about 3.5 years, and then we actually decided to split. They kept the name and everything that was with it. I just essentially took all of the fabrication equipment.
Okay.
And I went and worked. I moved up with Tyler at Force Engineering. And
they're in Grand Rapids area? I think, right?
He's in Plainwell, about in between Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids.
Okay.
So instantly we changed a lot. With their business was very established. His dad was doing it, in like the 70s and stuff. And then Tyler took over when his dad was just getting, too old to do it, I guess. And his dad actually had another business.
Okay.
So, the first experience was starting a business from scratch and making it semi-successful. I mean, it wasn't like we made that much money.
Mm-hmm.
Then moving in with Tyler, we actually had structure. We got paychecks. When I was at the other shop, we just pay ourselves every week
Mm-hmm.
and then write it down, essentially. And then when we got to Tyler's, we had structure. We had a bookkeeper. We had a tech. It was actually a part of a body shop too. So there was body shop stuff going on. They had enough machining equipment that we could machine a block and a head and do all that in house. And I really pushed them to get a dyno because I was starting to get into doing more tuning. So in the winter that year, I think that's when we got a Mustang dyno. So we were building engines and tuning cars, and the business was growing pretty wild. But it was about a year and a half I was there, and I could definitely tell the focus was going to be to, get into some more domestic stuff. And I really wanted to stick with the import Evos and
Okay. So that's
Subarus.
what the other guys at the shop wanted to do, was the domestic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they still play with the 4G63. Tyler had a really fast, like we were chasing a bunch of like small turbo records, running just weird fuels and stuff like that. We really did a lot of off the wall stuff, which was pretty fun. But Tyler got rid of the 1G. He got a Mustang. He's building, Pro Mod or Grudge car now. So they definitely kind of veered off in that path, and they still do some import work. But I really wanted to stick to the 4G63 market, and I had the opportunity to do it myself, and I've kind of always been, I guess, wanted to do it myself. But so we got an opportunity to purchase a building in Paw Paw. That's where I'm at now. And it was pretty much just a building. There was absolutely not set up to be a shop, but it wasn't, I guess, going into thinking about it now, like I wasn't worried about the amount of work it takes to turn it into a shop. I mean, you've stopped by it a couple times and seen it. It's definitely evolving into what it is now.
Yeah. When I was there, that was probably 3 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
It
that
was.
would have been my first year.
It was. The location is not bad. I mean, you had parking, and you had a big parking lot next to you for trailers and everything. And
Yep.
And the building was actually pretty big. It just wasn't like tall ceilings and very open. It was very sectioned. I guess there were lots of sections in it, right?
Yeah. It's like 8,500 square feet total, and the back building is like 2,000, or it's maybe a little over 2,000 square feet, and that has a tall building. So I could just barely fit some storage along the walls. I got my dyno back there. I actually got a dyno jet, and we put it in the ground, and I got 2 lifts. And in the front area, it has really low ceilings, so it's very difficult. But that's where we do a lot of our fab work.
Okay.
I have a really big engine build room, enough to fit all of the chaos that goes on in here. But yeah, and then we actually, you haven't seen it, but we built like an actual front office, so the customers can actually have a spot to stay that's separate from everything else that's going on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Semi like a showroom, I guess. So yeah, that I think. Yeah, the first year I moved in May. I think I was officially in here in June. I probably spent the first 2-3 weeks like cleaning everything up, because this building was empty for a while. And we painted all the walls because they're a nasty yellow. And then we started on the back. So the back room was nothing more than 3 lights in the storage area. That's where it was just a pole barn.
Okay.
And then we did, we got it the first winter I worked in there. We had no heat and barely any light, so I was like hanging lights on the wall to like get light. And I mean, I guess we're pretty used to the cold, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But when it was 30 degrees out or 0 degrees out, it'd be like 20 degrees back there. It's like hard to hold a wrench. But so
or when you hold a wrench and hit your hand on something, you don't ever want to work on anything ever again, right?
Yeah, you definitely have to be more careful with the whole situation. It just slows you down. But I mean, we just did with what we had, and I knew that it was going to grow into something, better. It took a little bit of time to get the money. So now it's drywalled, and we have a ceiling on it, and I have a heater back there. We did all new lights. Because it's an actual separate building, there's just like a little walkway to it. I got its own service, so I got plenty of power back there now. So that's really, we're actually going to be finally putting a garage door on it because it's got a sliding door right now. It's kind of a pain.
If I remember correctly, you bought the building right away, right? Is that correct?
We did land contract for 3 years, and that actually ended in May this year. So now we're in the next step of it. So
a mortgage, the mortgage step.
Yeah, we'll be the projected will own it in another 3 years. So luckily
paid in full in 3 years.
Yeah, it's paid in full.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
So, I mean, I don't really feel like our area has ever affected the amount of business we got. So, luckily, we got this building at a pretty good price.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if I could pay mine off in 3 years, I'd be a very happy man.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna be closer to 20 years, but we'll see.
We actually, I work pretty close with a local credit union, and our guy there is pretty good. He actually set it up we pay weekly, and that dropped the years down like crazy, paying it weekly. So that's what we do with that. So yeah, I got the chassis dyno. Once we got into spring that year, I actually drove out to New York and we bought a 4-wheel drive dyno from TAC Works or TAC Motor Works. Came back, cut a hole in the floor, rented some tools, and made forms, laid the cement, did all the work to make it get in the ground, and that was a pretty exciting situation. But that was, once we got the dyno, it was like, full bore ahead on, getting work in here. I mean, since we got the dyno, we've, really haven't been slow. I don't have a ton of people. I have, 4 guys that work for me. But since we had the dyno, I think the first year we did just under 100 tunes, and then the year after that we did, I think, like 175 or something like that.
That's a bunch of tuning, yeah.
I haven't counted what we did this year, but we just upgraded our software, so now I use my laptop for all the software, so it will be hard to count them. But and then I actually hired a really, really smart dude, Jason, and he did a ton of Subaru tuning, so that really jumped up the tunes in my second year. He would do all the Subarus, and I'd actually put him on some Evos, and then I would, do all the bigger power Evos, and we just kind of alternate. And he would be in the build room helping me with engine builds. He actually works for Cobb now. So, but yeah, since he left, I'd say our tunes probably dropped a little bit because I just don't have the time, honestly, to focus on that 100%.
Right.
But so that's pretty much moved into this year now. Where we've got a pretty decent system working with engine builds and and tuning and fabrication. I try to stay away, honestly, from the fabrication stuff as much as I can anymore. But
it's very hard to make money. Yeah,
it's extremely difficult. Like, when you break it down into how much time versus how much you morally can bill for it, it's like hard to justify doing really large projects. I actually we do sheets every week, and they'll detail out what they're working on, and we're very diverse. I mean, we do wiring, tuning, engine building. We work with TRE on trans builds. I mean, we just do a lot. Honestly, we try to do it all, because out here it's not like a big city where I have a wiring guy down the street and I have an engine guy over here or whatever. We have to kind of do it all in house to make it convenient and quick. So those sheets, I broke it down like what my tech's best weeks were and what my tech's worst weeks were. And both of them had the worst weeks when they were doing larger fab projects, and actually surprisingly working on fuel systems. And their best weeks were just installs, larger projects where we're putting a lot of stuff on, on and off, brakes, some like wiring. We actually do pretty good on wiring.
Okay.
So that's kind of opened my eyes to it. Like I have a hard time trying to figure out how a lot of guys, make enough money to support the business doing just fab work. It's crazy to me.
Yeah. Okay. So you've kind of broken down like what you're doing now, but I want to really talk about like when you transitioned from working for Force to doing your own thing. I mean, were you working other jobs and in school? Did you had finished school by then?
I actually dropped completely out of school when I was working for the first business. I just couldn't handle it. So then I made the transition to Force. I worked there full time.
Okay.
And when I made the transition here, I took a lot of the structure that Force had and tried to put as much into place right away, but it was definitely difficult to I didn't have a bookkeeper, for example.
Right.
So, I instantly bought QuickBooks and did it legit right away. And honestly, I didn't have many employees in the beginning. I was doing all of it. Like, just the cars that were coming through was enough for me. And I would ask some people to come in that have worked with me before to help out. But, it definitely wasn't like employees right away.
Did you have a big cash savings to get going with, or was it just kind of like the opportunity? Like, because I feel like your building, the opportunity was so good because the cost of the building was so low that you didn't have like a huge overhead that you had to cover right away, even with an 8,500 square foot building, right?
Yeah. So I actually used my tax return for the down payment on the building. And then I was sort of doing some e-tunes. Like I was actually traveling and tuning some cars like on the other side of the state, and people were coming to me. So I was, saving up some cash to do that.
Okay.
And then when we pulled the trigger on some of the equipment, I actually borrowed some money from my brother-in-law to make that happen.
Okay.
So we actually went to an auction and we bought like an air compressor, the lift. It was an automotive shop that was going out of business.
Okay.
So we bought a
Perfect.
couple things. Yeah, it just kind of timed in perfectly to make it all happen, like, all within a month, thinking back on it, it's kind of crazy because the auctions out here are kind of rare. You really got to travel far. This was like 20 minutes away.
Okay.
So it worked out pretty good for us.
So do you kind of think of yourself as an entrepreneur? Did you go out to start a business? You've done it twice, or this would be your second venture. So is it is it in your blood to do it yourself?
I don't know if I would have ever started a business if it wasn't for the first one, and I wasn't really like the one that was gung ho for it.
Okay.
The other two guys kind of sucked me in because I was doing a lot of the work, and I had the faster cars. But after I got into it, like for example, like my mom has had a business forever. She does hair.
Okay.
So, I can't say it's not in my blood to want to own a business and do all of this, but I definitely, it wasn't like on my mind to do. Like I definitely feel like I'm not as business minded as I could be or should be. I like to build the engines and tune the cars and do the work, not so much the business side of it, but you gotta balance both of them.
All right. And being in Kalamazoo, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but has that been made it harder to be successful? Like obviously in a big city you have a lot of cars, but being in kind of the rural Michigan area, it's a little more difficult, right? Or have you played off the webpage and the internet to kind of like expand your success, I guess you could say?
I feel like I've kind of always been a part of Facebook and forums. Like the forums were a lot bigger back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like right now, I have one car in the shop that is within 20 minutes from us.
Okay.
I get cars from really far away, actually. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel like the location. For example, we have Force Engineering, which is in Plainwell. TRE is in Plainwell. The other shop is in Kalamazoo. There's a couple other really small shops that do some stuff, but I'd say there is some competition, but I feel like they're the same way. They generally bring cars in from pretty far.
Okay.
We get a lot of cars from the Chicago area, from the Detroit area, from Grand Rapids. We get some Indianapolis cars. Like we're kind of our location just so happens to be directly in between all of those bigger cities.
Okay. So there's not necessarily customers that are, or like an abundance of customers that are local to you. You have to reach out for customers elsewhere and bring them to you.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, in the 3 years, probably, yeah, in the last 3 years, there's probably been 10 to 15 that are local.
Okay.
I mean, honest, like, you know, and 100 cars, they're traveling, you know, they're definitely coming from far. We get a lot of the northern Indiana cars and things like that too.
Okay.
So
cool. Well, have you ever doubted yourself and wondered if this isn't going to work? What am I going to do? And how do you move forward from that feeling?
I honestly never really feel like I can't do it. Like if the bank account is low, I just work harder, I guess. And it's pretty, I mean, like if you, I feel like, you know, if you're good enough and you know how to promote, you know, at least a little bit, there's always someone out there that needs something like a tune or whatever. And, you know, you could definitely do a good job with them. You just have to reach out and get it. You
Gotcha.
know, it's not just going to come to you. So I've never really felt like I couldn't do it. Like, even if the bank account's been low, you know, I'll just put in an extra, you know, whatever 20, 30 hours a week that it needs to be to make it happen. You know, just get stuff done.
Awesome. Okay. And can you explain the worst experience you've had in business? And would you, if you had that opportunity, would you do it differently?
I mean, it's hard to put an absolute worst. I'd say there might have been some bad business decisions, but honestly, it's probably been like kind of customer based. I've been in some situations where like every single possible end has been met to make them as happy as possible.
Uh-huh.
And there's been details the entire time. A lot of it has been stuff that I'm not actually happy with, and I tell them that I'm not happy with it. They just don't have the money or the budget or whatever to make it happen. So I get it done, and like the car's not even broken, and it's smoking a little bit. And I showed him pictures that his cylinder wall's scuffed or whatever it may be,
Uh-huh.
and he just made me get it done, and it comes back to bite me in the ass. So like now I like a lot of those situations have just completely like, you know, droned me to the point where like we just refuse that. Like if I feel like the situation's going to go that way, I'll just stop communication. You know, it's unfortunate, but you do kind of have to shop your customer to figure out if it's going to be a problem or not. Like, can you possibly make them happy, or will they always not be happy with the situation?
Yeah, those customers are tough to deal with. I think we've
it's
all had one like that.
Yeah, I mean, I really try to help them. Like, honestly, like I started this as an enthusiast and helping people out. That's like the business side of it. Like I've always tried to help people, and it seems like the harder I try to help them, the worse it like comes out on me. So like I definitely have to balance myself out, make sure I don't like get too it's almost like emotionally attached to the situation. Like you feel really bad from their previous, you know, a lot of it is like someone else built them something, and you know, for whatever reason it's destroyed. They just spent a ton of money with this other place, and now I feel really bad about it, and I want to help them out. And that's when it comes and hits me the hardest,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah, cleaning up other people's messes is never fun.
yeah, it's like it's hard to deliver the bad news sometimes that, yeah, everything is junk, or we have to like really start over a lot, like with your entire situation. Cause you know, everybody has their different idea of like what is proper. You know, like we had that, like, for example, the main car I'm talking about, it had a surge tank built by somebody else, and it had like little 1/4-inch nipples running everywhere, and fuel pressure was like 100 psi at idle. And like we're telling them, like, you know, you have to redesign this entire thing to work right. Like it's I can't explain to you enough that 100 psi of fuel pressure at idle is not correct. And we, you know, to do that, we have to remove this entire surge tank and make all the lines bigger and make sure it works right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not in the budget, whatever. And then, you know, he's explaining problems that are exactly related to the fueling problem that I told him that is the problem. It's like, you know, it's almost to the point where like he wanted us just to touch up the tune with it. And we did, you know, just a little bit of fuel trimming and whatever, and sent him out the door. And then he's saying that the car's never driven as good. And then like a week later, it's like the world's ending and everybody hates us. So it's just whatever.
Okay. Okay, so tell us something you're doing right now that has you fired up.
We've kind of decided that we really want to focus on like building relationships with certain vendors or, whatever. So we've really jumped. I feel like a lot of times I need to communicate with someone, like if I see a problem or I really like building a relationship with a vendor. So we've been working on with Link ECU for these for all pretty much. I mean, since we started working with them and really getting to know them, and they've getting to know us, like we've been putting them in everything, and they work really good.
Okay.
So that's been really cool. We're working with Manley to design some new pistons for the 4G63, which is really sweet. We're working with Callies for crankshafts, mostly like the stroker cranks that like to break. So I'd say that's what's really got me most excited lately is, getting to actually work with them and make some decisions on, what we should change or, what we should do. And then obviously testing them out.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess I should first say is a lot of the manufacturers or vendors you're dealing with are smaller, and it's easier to build a personal relationship with them. Like if you call K&N, it's very hard to find, like somebody who's going to care and be interested, because it's such a big company.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's extremely frustrating. And I almost will try so many different things with smaller companies to see if we could come up with something that's better than say K&N or whatever. So we actually, got in touch with Uni Filters. They make us custom filters for our like intake kits for the Evos and stuff like that.
Okay.
And, we've tested them and we've at least made more power with these things, and they're cleanable and they look cool. They get our logo on them. But I mean, that's just one small example of something that we've tested over the years. And then you get to actually talk to them and, we can come up with different ways to do stuff or whatever. Okay. It's pretty convenient, I guess.
Cool. So let's take a quick break here and then we'll move on, and I want to talk more about the specifics of the business.
We are hosting our next Essentials of Operating a Shop seminar during the PRI show in Indianapolis, Indiana on December 6th. We developed this one-day seminar to help shop owners rethink how they run their business. We cover topics like employee management, best practices for accounting, improving customer service, and many more. It doesn't matter whether you've been in business for 20 years or haven't even opened yet, you'll get useful information and helpful business practices to improve the operations at your shop and be more profitable. You can find out more information about the seminar and sign up by going to the Events tab on the Do It For a Living Facebook page or by visiting the website at doitforalivingpodcast.com.
All right, John. So you kind of told us about the space here, and it's 8,500 square feet. You're almost done paying for it. But when you moved into this building, you said you kind of took some of the structure from Force. Have you ever actually written a formal business plan, or did you just kind of go off the structure they had and kind of try to replicate it at your place?
I tried to write a business plan probably 3 times and have stopped once I look at some of the pie charts or the spreadsheet stuff.
Okay.
Because it's extremely difficult, especially I vividly remember walking into the local bank here, which is now who I pretty much only work with, and told them what I'm doing. I wanted to open a business account. I need a business credit card. I buy everything with the credit card and then just pay it off nothing. That was something that was pulled over from Force. We never use our debit card.
Okay.
And I told them what I'm doing. They almost looked at me like I'm crazy. They're like, "There's no way we're going to give you, even just a $5,000 credit card so I can purchase parts for customers' builds."
Which you can't even buy one part sometimes, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you guys need to raise this. I pay it so often, it needs to happen. So anyway, they looked at me like I was completely crazy. Which a lot of people do in this industry, honestly. There's no way that you can have a business modifying cars. That's just one side of it. But so I remember walking into the bank and they were, you should put a business plan together, if you want to buy some stuff and things like that. And I honestly just kind of put it off to the point where we were doing enough business and they seen the amount of business that we were doing come through that it was honestly, once we established ourselves and we were bringing in, a decent amount of money, they kind of just worked with us and went with it. So
Okay, so cool. And how many employees are you at right now? And I know one of them is even your brother, right?
yeah, so the very first employee was my brother.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a funny guy, but
If I were working with
yeah.
my brother, I think I'd be punching him after day 3, right?
I mean, we play around quite a bit. You know, we sometimes take it to the next level, and we fight a ton. But there's a lot of respect between us. So it's
Okay.
like if it was with anybody else, obviously it'd be our fists would be firing, and we would never see each other again. But me and Joey were, it's almost within an hour we're cool with each other again.
Okay.
But yeah, and then I have Josh. Josh has been with me for a long time. He kind of does a lot of the fabrication stuff that you see that goes out. And then Joey, he does the fab stuff too, but he mostly focuses on, he does like a lot of the wiring projects. So he did a lot of the Evo 10 that we just finished.
Okay.
And then we have Dylan, which he's our service writer guy. He does a lot of the website stuff and answers emails and phone calls and everything like that. And then we actually just got it's kind of hard to hire employees. So I actually reached out to KVCC that we went to. They have a really good automotive program. And we have an intern that I'm kind of training on some stuff, and he's actually really interested in wiring. Okay. So that's obviously a huge time consumer. So hopefully he works out for us, and he can move into doing more complex stuff.
Okay, so he's in a automotive, I guess, trade school is what that is.
Yeah, yeah. So
KVCC,
yeah, they have like an automotive section at the school.
Okay.
That's, I mean, I've talked to quite a few people that have been to other schools, and they actually say KVCC, this community college's classroom, they teach a lot. They learn a ton from it.
Okay.
So I actually, one of my good buddies went through that class and knows one of the head guys there. And I reached out to him and just said, hey, do you have anybody that would be interested in doing what we do? Because what we do is not very normal. And a lot of the people that go into this don't really plan to, build race cars for a living.
Right.
And he just so happened to have someone that was pretty interested in it. So it's working out so far.
Okay. And what are your kind of break down your revenue? I know you obviously do part sales and you do service fabrication.
Yep.
You guys are also making some of your own parts, right? I mean, you have coil on plug set up for an Evo. Is there anything else?
Yep. Yeah. So I pretty much, whenever I guess see a problem in the market, or something's really expensive and I want to make it myself cheaper, mm-hmm. I'll design something and then I ended up producing it. So yeah, the ignition kit we do, it's actually getting crazy popular. Is the IGN 1A kit. It kind of is a niche style ignition kit because so many people, the best way to run it is sequential. It doesn't really work that great in a wasted spark system like a stock ECU.
Okay. So you have to run it on an aftermarket ECU pretty much.
Yeah. And,
okay.
We try to make it as plug and play as possible. I mean, I'll even go to the point where I add pins to the little DTM connector that we add so that they can pin it directly into their ECU if their ECU needs to be, pinned
okay.
in. And then we designed a brake kit, mostly for clearance, because a lot of times if you get a small brake kit, you still have to run spacers with a drag wheel, 15-inch slick.
Right.
So the entire design of that was to get everything pushed in as far as possible so guys wouldn't have to run spacers. So we make a full drag kit, which I don't think anybody else offers, where it's a solid rotor in the front and rear.
Okay. And
a lot of the fast Evos and the Bounty are running our kit. So they're getting pushed pretty hard and it's working well.
Okay.
And then we make, some basic stuff. I do boost controllers, which are mostly sold to the customers that come in for tuning. We do SD intakes designed around the stock frame force performance turbos.
Okay.
Because back in the day, I actually ran that turbo and I won the stock appearing class at Shootout. So I did a lot of development on the stock frame stuff, and we came up with an intake that worked pretty good.
Yeah, you were always the one to keep trying. Everybody else does it for a little bit and they get bored and put a big turbo on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is honestly really fun playing with something that's so restricted. And that's when I was working at Force Engineering, we were trying to break the record with just a 16G. And Tyler ended up setting the record with a DSM FP Black, went like 9.3s or something. But yeah, we were playing with like methanol and just doing a bunch of crazy stuff. It's really fun, trying to extract as much horsepower as possible out of like a, really small setup.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what about advertising and marketing? I mean, you said you have a guy specifically for handling that. You guys do you put a man on it, or are you paying to advertise on Facebook, Google, that kind of thing? Just manpower seem to work better?
Yeah, I feel like the paid advertisement is not like as, I guess you'd say, like organic.
Okay.
Like the people that would like my page, sometimes I just click on their name and they're not even like, they don't even have a car.
Uh-huh.
So I felt like it was a waste of time to spend money in certain areas. But, honestly, it's like constantly putting like intriguing posts out, new products, cool pictures, whatever we're working on has really helped, up our like count, which I don't really look at my like count as being that important.
Yeah, I've given up caring mostly, at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you say you got 6,000 likes or 7,000 likes. If all 7,000 of those people actually care what you do, then I feel like that's more important than having 20,000 likes and only having 2,000 people that care what you do.
Absolutely.
So
totally agree.
We definitely push Facebook really hard because the forums have kind of died, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know what everyone else feels about it, but I feel like the forums have really died, and it's went to Facebook, and then that has its own problems that come out. Like it's not there's no admins to take care of any like false posts or whatever, but we do our best to post as much as we can on there and make good posts to help business.
Okay, so now here's a difficult question.
Yep.
Do you find having the sales/marketing guy pays for himself? Does it bring in enough business to justify the position?
Well, it's kind of funny because I actually told him that your job is extremely difficult and I don't think you can do it. And this is why I literally told him when I was hiring him, because he was actually friends with my brother. And I told him, I said, this job is not easy. And if you can like sell this much every week, then I was going to pay him commission in the beginning.
Okay.
Just based up percentage based off the profit that he sold the parts for. Because that's another problem is everybody sells everything for nothing. And you actually lose money after you figure you got to run the lights, phones, internet, they sell it for absolutely nothing, which is it's kind of frustrating. So I told him this is what you're going to be fighting with is other people that, don't necessarily even have a shop that are literally going to just make the sale and make no money on it. Yep. So whatever you can do, to do this and make money on it, go ahead and try it. I just told him, try it. And it took like maybe 2-3 weeks, and he really started getting more sales. And then he came to me, he's like, I'm kind of getting distracted by having to respond to emails and phone calls and things like that. So I actually just put him, like he was doing so well with it, I actually just put him on like a salary.
Okay.
So he obviously has to deal with a lot of the emails, phone calls, like normal service writer business work, and he also does the marketing side.
Okay, so it's paid for itself then. I mean, you find it really useful. Okay.
If he sell, like we're trying to obviously produce products so that we can control what we're making on it, and that he can sell it and actually,
make
promote
a commission.
it, and we can actually make money. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you could make money on it. Like it doesn't make sense to try to do it and not do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much since then he's, really jumped into it. And honestly, I feel like he's better at it than me because I kind of get like I let my experience and knowledge get in the way sometimes of like maybe even being scared to reach out or put a post up or whatever. But, he's kind of new and fresh to it. And, he's not scared to put posts up or constantly, talk to people and try to push the sale, I guess.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, that's it's one of those things that, like, obviously a service writer in a completely general maintenance sort of place, super important, and they pay for themselves. It's always very difficult in our industry where the parts margins are so small that you have to sell $250,000 of parts just to pay for his like $10 an hour, right? So it's kind of crazy. Yeah. So
I mean, it's a lot easier to justify it when he does as much as what he's doing. Mm-hmm. I look at the sales, and it's hard for me even to focus that much on looking at the reports all the time. But when I look at it and I see what's going through, obviously I can see that it's working out really well.
Cool.
And a lot of it comes down to being with a company, like being with Link or being with Callie's or Manly or whoever. They almost like, it gets to the point where they'll give us a sale. They're like, yeah, these guys, we really work with them a ton. I don't know, or like the customer, like, I don't know where to buy an ECU at. These companies thankfully won't sell directly to the customer. They're going to push it through a dealer.
Okay.
They'll just push them to us.
Very nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, that helps a lot too.
Okay. And you kind of said, your hours fluctuate a lot depending on, like if you need to work harder or not. But how many hours do you typically work a week?
Well, it's definitely, I just had a baby. So
congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. It's, obviously that's another full-time job. Well, it's pretty much a 24/7 job when you're home, because it's every 2-3 hours right now you're getting up. But yeah, and I definitely want it to be a normal workplace. Like when I first started this, I'd work 80 hours a week and make $350, at the end of the week. And it's like slavery. And then when I was working at Force, we did as much as we could with what we had, and we didn't charge enough for what we were doing. So we didn't make, I didn't make much money there. And, thankfully as far as I know, they're doing a lot better with that too. And when I started here, I definitely wanted to make sure that, if I'm going to do this for a living and have a wife and a family and stuff, that I need to at least get it to within like 50 hours, something,
right.
Like when I didn't have the baby, I definitely would be working on my race car after hours and pushing it pretty hard. And I've been with my wife, my now wife, for so long. She's kind of used to my craziness.
I get that.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't necessarily absolutely like it, but luckily she's, she has good relations with her parents and she gets to go over there and whatever. But yeah, so I definitely try to get it down now to where I'm working 40 to 50 hours a week.
Okay.
And trying to stay as efficient as I can while I'm here.
Cool. And are you finding the pay is justifying the time spent? Is it working out better for you? You're not working 80 hours for $350 anymore, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean, and I feel like, having 8 years of experience doing everything, being like, I guess like you'd be considered like a tech, like an R&R tech, like pulling engines, putting engines in. Now I learned how to machine engines, and I know how to build engines. I know how to tune cars. I'm pretty familiar with like, CAD software, whichever one it may be, to develop a part, go through the entire process of, making sure everything fits. Now we're designing ignition kits. Like, you really have to expand to be able to, get the, I guess, revenue coming in other ways so that you can, pay yourself pretty decent.
Right.
So. Okay.
And what are the primary tools you guys use to manage the business? And you already said QuickBooks. I know at one point in time you were trying out MSA.
Yep.
Do you have a shop manager there that's handling all that sort of stuff now?
Yeah. So, honestly, we took a lot of the ideas of MSA. The hardest thing for me was to get the guys to stay on the electronic side of it. Like for example, my brother's like super anti-technology sometimes. So like he just wants to write something down on paper, and I don't mind it. And then Josh kind of followed suit, and then Dylan, we worked on ways to make it all work well. So like honestly, we use QuickBooks every day, obviously.
Right.
We have our just basic Yahoo email. I have a personal email that I use as well. And then Facebook's huge. The guys get mad at me sometimes because I'm on it so long, but I'm answering a million questions. So, and a lot of them are, customers that are out of country or out of state or whatever. I got to try to be as much tech support as I can, or just help them along.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd say that those are probably the biggest ones, and then obviously all my tuning software that I use.
Okay. Okay, and let's take a short break here, and then we'll move on to the future of your business. We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial. All right, John, what's something you're struggling with business and how do you deal with it?
The biggest thing right now is my, I guess you would say, my efficiency.
Okay.
Since we've started like growing, having parts, and I'm a part of a lot of the fab stuff. Like it's hard for me to get a solid, even 4 or 5 hours on a certain task because I'm bouncing around so much.
Yeah, spreading yourself thin, huh?
It's, we just had a conversation this morning about getting Josh a little more familiar with like getting into an ECU and setting a car up and making sure all the sensors work.
Okay.
A lot of times, like a person brings a car here, I'll take time, jump in the car, run it in the back, put it on the dyno, and a sensor's bad, or, I have to pull the codes and there's a bunch of stuff wrong. We're trying to implement a dyno inspection.
Okay.
Because, I'm sure a lot of the guys that are listening to this know, like, it's rarely ever just a tune.
Right.
Like if a guy's bringing a car to you and it's not running right and it's like all stock, then obviously there's a major problem. Like it should be running decent and we're just going to be, making it run a little bit better and horsepower.
Yep.
But so I'm trying to get them, a little more involved in that so that they can be, take a little bit of weight off my shoulders so I can like maybe stay in the build room for another half hour. The car is loaded on the dyno. It's done a boost leak test. He's checked to make sure all the sensors are working right. And, then I can run back there and tune it.
Okay. And what's the 1-year plan for the business? I mean, what are you hoping to accomplish? I guess really what are you hoping to accomplish in 2018?
I got a million things that run through my head, but I'd say I want to develop some more parts. That's just one little part of it.
Okay.
I definitely want to dig into. I've been doing the Evo stuff for a long time, and the Evo 10 stuff now. We've had a couple, higher profile builds, I guess you say.
Uh-huh.
But I'm thinking that I might start getting into like the off-road stuff because out here in rural Michigan.
Yeah, there's some of that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's everybody's got like a Gator or, I obviously I would go after something that's a little more sporty that people want to modify, but I think that's where I'm going to kind of run into is
turbo snowmobiles, man. Turbo snowmobiles. Do it.
If it's snowed enough, like we get like huge amounts of snow, then it's warm and all melts. So
Yeah.
like I was looking into like the UTV stuff because up north there's like Silver Lake sand dunes. There's just, that place is packed full of them.
Uh-huh.
So, and I feel like if we get into the turbo stuff, we can take a lot of the things that we've learned from the Evo and put them into stuff like that and, make it more powerful and reliable and, have some tuning options for them and allow them just to go a little bit more than just a simple stage package. They can go to something a little more serious.
Gotcha. Okay, and then what about a 5-year plan for the business? I mean, it sounds like you paying the building off is in that plan, but what else are you looking to do?
Yeah, I mean, the 5-year plan would be to make it so the business is a little more normal. Like I don't necessarily will ever have to do like the crazy hours or, We'll have a race car that's, that we dedicate time to maybe on a Friday or whatever. Because in 5 years, I would assume that I know that my family's going to be bigger.
Okay.
Or at least I'll have to be more involved because, my son will be older.
Yeah. Where they're not just laying in bed and eating and pooping, right?
I definitely would like to be a part of, having a little bit more of a normal life and maybe actually have fun and go out or have other hobbies because now it's hard to do anything but this.
I'm telling you, man, I'm in I'm your 5-year window right now where my kids are old enough where they want to go do stuff every day. And so my hobby has switched from, racing my own car, and I've got it for sale, like we've said in the last several podcasts, still for sale.
Yeah.
but it's to the point where like I'm trying to find hobbies that my kids will enjoy doing with me. Like I don't dance, I don't do gymnastics, but I found that they like biking, so we go biking every weekend now, and we just got my wife involved, and all this stuff takes away from spending time at the shop, and your hobby of building and going racing obviously is mine, in my case at least, has cut back a lot just because of the family time. So
it's like the guys that have gone as fast as they have for as long as they have, like huge props to them for being able to balance it all, because it's like to build a capable race car of going as fast as that we need to be relevant in the situation in today's age. I mean, it takes a lot of time and money, like a huge amount of time and money. And, I've kind of been blessed to be in the situation and being young enough and, I guess not having a family to be able to do the things that I've done with pretty much have free reign over my time. But I feel like, I want to be involved with my family and I enjoy golfing. I like biking, but out here it's kind of, I guess I probably could get back into it. I used to love biking. But like I like getting on the water. I haven't been on the water in probably, honestly, since high school, like, going out and jet skiing and having fun that way. Like it's pretty much shop stuff, race on the weekend, shop stuff, race on the weekend. I enjoy racing, don't get me wrong, but it's stressful too. You're building a 1,000 horsepower car. You're trying to make sure everything is perfect so it doesn't blow up. And, we've been pretty lucky in making, our car hasn't gone huge leaps in getting faster, but it's, we've learned a lot. We tear it down a lot to make sure, learn as much as we can about it before it blows up. Right. And I honestly think that's kind of fun to, and it's intriguing to know what's going on in there and try to make, and obviously like a lot of times we'll make improvements to make it better and then you could see it,
And what's nice for you is you have a boy, right?
Yep, I have a boy.
So you actually can get him involved in it, whereas I don't think my girls care about working on cars.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. And, when you do it all day, every day for a living, it's hard to really get excited to work on your own stuff. But hopefully that'll spark a new interest. Like even just building something simple or stupid, like, I did a lot of weird stuff. I built a compound car. That was pretty rare. Not a lot of people did it. I did it because I had like $600 in material and I bought $250 turbos and I bought, like, the guy mislabeled 60 millimeter wastegates on eBay. I got them for $150 a piece. And I just fabbed it up crazy and it worked really well. And, it was a really fun project. And, my focus has definitely changed to be more business minded. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm going to make a manifold, I'm going to make it so that I can jig it and reproduce it. I'm not going to spend 80 hours designing this crazy compound setup that I can never use again.
Right.
but when I figure when he gets a little bit older, maybe we can go back to just doing stuff just for the fun of it instead of, being so business minded about it, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And I think that'll happen, there's always karting and then getting involved in racing that way. So there's for sure. You have a lot to look forward to still.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Okay. And we like to take action and do it for a living. Can you suggest an action item our listeners can take away to improve their situation?
I'd say if the community in general, realize that they should be making money on parts, it'd make the rest of the situation a little better.
Yeah.
We're all in competition, but we're all, sort of in this weird market that it should be, we should almost be able to internally regulate it ourselves to, be able to make it worthwhile to have a sales guy, for example, or whatever, someone that can actually, sell these products to people and have value behind it and, sell quality parts and then obviously make money doing it. So
yeah, that's a good one.
That'd be a big one.
Instead of the industry sinking itself by making no money in it and then nobody wants to do it. Right. Or nobody can do it, I should say. Everybody wants to do it, and that's part of the problem. Yeah. So let's move on to the quick answer questions here. Tell us a game-changing product you've seen in the last year.
Well, I'd say it's probably going to be with standalone ECUs in cars with complex CAN systems.
Gotcha. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just seen, the John Reed product,
on the Evo 10
stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the Evo 10. Right now it's really expensive, I'm sure, but over time the price will start dropping so that we can put easily. I wouldn't say the Evo 10's that difficult to tune. Like there's a lot of stuff in the way, but having all of the features plug in to a factory car and everything works like it's supposed to is pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're way complex. You got a million things going on, and you got to control ACD and a bunch of other stuff. So it's really cool to see the technology pushed to make plug-and-play units for the complex CAN cars.
Yeah, and that's the cost savings to people who are buying a plug-and-play version like that is huge because paying somebody to do that is super expensive. That gets into your wiring and your custom fab and all that sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
and
we
your
just
80 hours of labor is $8,000 of time, you know. So
yeah, I mean, we just did a wire-in link on an Evo 10, and we left the interior mostly there. Like the radio still works and a lot of stuff works, but we had to do a lot of custom wiring to control the ACD pump, and we couldn't run the dash obviously without the CAN stuff. So we just put our own AIM dash in it, which I think the AIM dash is cooler than the stock
they definitely are.
dash. But yeah, for a car that necessarily isn't as crazy as that Evo 10 that we're building, say a 600-700 horsepower car,
Still
it'd be
better.
really cool. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not going to argue with you, but because I have the same exact AIM dash in my Evo, my drag car, and I love it because I could display everything that I want to see all at once.
Yep.
But yeah, it's I could see where $6,000 or whatever it is for the Motec plug and play in that specific Evo 10, which it's going to develop into other cars, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely people will look at it as a big number, but the amount of time it take to wire in something would be by far more than that.
Yep. Okay, and what software are you guys using daily? And this can be tuning software, like whatever you're dinking around with your computer, just anything.
I probably use ECU Flash EvoScan Megalog Viewer. The Link software we use a ton. I tune a bunch of different weird setups too. And then obviously QuickBooks I use every day, and Facebook I use every day.
Okay.
But yeah, that's probably the main ones.
Do you have a favorite app on your phone?
I got a Note, and I love writing notes. The Note 8 Samsung.
Okay.
Just being able to write a note down real quick and save it is like huge for me. I don't know why I hate typing, but just using one hand to write out something simple that I can go back to.
Okay.
It seems like the crazier my life gets here with a business, the less I can remember. So that helps me a ton to remember stuff.
Gotcha. And what's your favorite shop tool?
I mean, obviously, I really love the dyno. I'd consider that a tool.
Yep.
I love playing with stuff and seeing the power go up and, stuff working the way you think it should work. And then sometimes it doesn't do it that way, which is also cool because then you learn something. But I'd say that's probably my favorite tool is the dyno.
Okay. And what are you daily driving right now?
I have a 2008 Duramax that I drive. It's my tow vehicle as well.
Okay. And you had a CTSV,
yeah.
but I think you sold that, right?
I actually kept it.
You still have it.
And
okay.
Yeah, I've had a ton of people hitting me up, and I just couldn't come to the, I guess to sell it. So it's crazy because I actually just got a customer that we built an Evo for him, and his dad has 3 CTSVs, and we're going to be doing work on 2 of them, and one of them's twin turbo, so that's pretty cool. I feel like the CTSV gives us another possibility of getting some cars in here to work on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, and what do you think the future of automotive performance is going to be?
Well, that's a questionable one, isn't it? But
I think it changes by the week.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, the future of it. I'd say that probably worries me the most is what everything's going to come of, the regulations at government level. Mm-hmm. But I'd say, they're never going to, I highly doubt they'll ever take away the funds, I guess the aftermarket ECU off-road only side of it.
Yeah.
So I probably see the future of it becoming more race car oriented instead of street car, which the street car is, obviously super fun. But I guess I see it becoming, you're going to pick or try to pick a path. I want to build a drag car. I want to build a circuit car or time attack. And you're just going to build it for that purpose and have fun doing it in, in a manner that is as legal as we can make it.
Right. Okay. And then to finish this thing up here, how do we connect with you and your company?
So, Facebook obviously is this Whalen Speed. I think it's whalenspeed.com and whalentune.com. We'll go to our website. And then our emails, whalentuned@yahoo.com.
Okay. Well, John, I really want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us and share your story and tell us about your business.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app. Tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum and attract more high-level guests.